What if you could float and swim in the clouds? Picture a world where clouds aren't just light, wispy collections of vapor, but thick enough to support your weight, like a soft swimming pool high up in the sky. If clouds were dense enough to let you swim, what would it feel like? And what kind of changes would it bring to our everyday life? Let's take the plunge into a sky pool and see. Step 1. Making clouds thick enough to actually swim in clouds. We'd need them to be much denser. Regular clouds are full of water droplets, but they're so spread out that they weigh almost nothing. Condense an entire cloud, and you'd only get a small puddle, barely enough for a splash, let alone a swim. To make clouds dense enough for swimming, we'd need to pack a lot more water into every bit of space. Instead of millions of tiny droplets per cubic centimeter, we'd need billions or even trillions. Imagine trying to stack the entire ocean up into the sky, layer by layer, but density wouldn't be enough. The clouds would have to feel more like jello than fog. What if clouds became a thick, squishy mass that didn't float away at the first breeze? The experience of swimming in clouds. Now, imagine yourself standing at the edge of a sky pool, wearing your swim trunks and goggles. You jump in, and instantly realize clouds aren't as soft as you imagined. They'd feel thick and mushy, more like swimming through oatmeal. As you move, the air would feel strangely warm. Normally, sunlight disperses as it hits clouds, creating cooler weather below. But up here, it would feel like a warm bath. And it wouldn't just be warm, it would be incredibly humid. Each breath would feel thick and steamy, like being in a sauna where someone just turned up the heat. Your goggles would fog up, and your skin would get sticky, as if you were covered in an invisible, damp suit. Plus, there would be a bit of static electricity in the air, making each swim stroke give a little tingle, like a tiny, friendly zap. Every movement would make tiny sparks dance around you. Buoyancy in the clouds, or sinking skyward. In this thick cloud world, buoyancy would work differently from water. Water pushes back because it's heavy, but even dense clouds wouldn't have that kind of force. If the cloud is thick enough, you might get a bit of pushback, but not nearly as much as in water. Think of it as trying to swim in a fluffy cushion that sometimes lets you slip right through. To stay afloat, you'd have to rely more on a floating technique than on strong strokes. Plus, every so often, if you found a thinner patch in the clouds, you might just drop. It'd feel like one of those dreams where you're floating, only to suddenly start falling, adapting to a sky swimming life. Imagine if swimming in clouds became a normal part of life. Cities would look completely different. Skyscrapers would stretch up into cloud seas, with floating lobbies and sky pools instead of rooftop patios. Drones would be our lifeguards, zooming around to rescue anyone who got stuck in a dense cloud or couldn't keep from sinking. The transportation system would also be strange. Airplanes would have to navigate through dense cloud layers, creating so much turbulence that flying would be an adventure on its own. Instead, we might have skyboats with special buoyancy engines, gliding smoothly through the clouds. But how would it affect the weather? Weather would become wildly unpredictable. With dense, swim-friendly clouds hovering above, the ground would rarely get rain. Water that usually condenses and falls to earth would be stuck up there, held in the thickened clouds. Rivers and lakes would start to dry up. Instead of rain, people would go up to the clouds to cool off. The whole ecosystem would change. Plants would start growing up mountainsides, stretching toward these airborne water reservoirs. And when it did rain, it wouldn't just sprinkle. It'd be like someone dumped a massive bucket of water from the sky. Imagine sudden downpours lasting 4 hours, pouring hundreds of gallons in seconds. Cities would need massive umbrellas, and umbrellas, as we know, don't do well under sky waterfalls. New challenges of sky pools. One thing's clear, swimmable clouds would come with their own problems. For starters, clouds are full of electric charge, which causes lightning. Just imagine taking a refreshing swim, only to get zapped by an unexpected lightning strike. And let's not forget the birds. Picture yourself floating alongside a seagull. Birds would be pretty irritated. Why are my flight paths suddenly packed with humans? they'd constantly be in our way. Instead of just avoiding a single seagull at the beach, you'd have to dodge entire flocks of annoyed geese. Finally, imagine the traffic in a cloud pool. A calm sky swim sounds nice, but what if hundreds of people were there, all with different swim styles, spraying droplets everywhere? The sky above would be a chaotic mix of flapping arms, soggy swimmers, and confused divers bumping into each other. Is sky swimming worth it? The idea of swimming in the clouds sounds magical, floating high above the earth, splashing in fluffy comfort. But in reality, it's a bit more complicated. Between the risk of falling, unexpected lightning shocks, and irritated birds, we might be better off sticking to regular pools. But if humanity ever learns how to control cloud density, we could at least create cloud parks, safely monitored for public use. So, while the dream of cloud swimming is fun to imagine, it's probably best left as just that, a dream.